Chilling surveillance video captured the kidnapping. Brucia's body was found 5 days later. Precedent the state Supreme Court sets in another death penalty case.
Friends, today we have a dirty bastard by the name of Joseph Peter Smith. Towards the end of this video, I'm going to break down why he did what he did, because he did explain in some detail, so stay tuned. Now on February the 1st, 2004, Carly Brucia left the Sarasota home of a friend between 6:10 and 6:15 p.m. to walk home in the state of Florida. The mother of the friend called Carly's mother to verify that permission had been given for the young girl to walk home alone. The mother advised that she had not given permission and immediately sent Carly's stepfather to transport Carly. When the stepfather arrived at the house of the friend, Carly had already left. At approximately 7:30 p.m., after attempts to locate Carly failed, a 911 call was made to report her missing. Law enforcement officers canvassed the area where Carly would have walked from her friend's house to her home until 3 a.m. and continued the search throughout the morning of February 2nd, 2004. At approximately 12 p.m., a bloodhound tracked the scent of Carly to the area behind a car wash located on Bee Ridge Road, where the dog suddenly lost her scent. The owner of the car wash was advised that police officers and dogs were outside the business and that the police were securing the area. The owner spoke with law enforcement and learned that a young girl was missing. He informed law enforcement that he had motion-sensitive cameras installed around the car wash and offered to review them to see if anything of use had been captured. A recording from one of the cameras, which was located at the rear of the car wash, revealed that approximately at 6:21 p.m., a girl was led away from the car wash by a man dressed in what appeared to be a mechanic's uniform. On the evening of February 2nd, 2004, a video of the apparent abduction was released to the media and an Amber Alert was issued for Carly. On the morning of February 3rd, 2004, the wife of a former business associate of Smith saw the video on television. She recognized the man in the video as Joseph Smith and asked her husband to also view the video. The husband watched the video a number of times and recognized the man as Smith. The husband said, "I worked with him at the shop, so I knew what he looked like. The sneakers, the back of the way his hair was cut, the way he walked, his gait was just like Joe walking through the shop. I mean, he's got a different type of walk to him. And then when I watched him reach for the girl, the way he reached for it, I've seen him pick up tools like that, you know. I knew it was him." The husband called the police. He spoke with Detective Vincent Reaver and provided Reaver with Smith's current address. Reaver and his partner proceeded to the address in an unmarked vehicle and were met there by two other officers. After a neighbor advised that someone was in the residence, the detectives approached the front door and knocked, but no one responded. The detective called his supervisor and was advised that Smith was on probation. He then called Smith's probation officer and asked her to respond to the address. After the officers had been at the residence for approximately 45 minutes, Smith's sister arrived at the scene and advised that she would retrieve her brother. When Smith exited the house, a detective interrogated Smith with regard to his activities on the day of the abduction without specifically asking whether he had been at the car wash. Smith provided a timeline of his actions on February the 1st, which did not place him or near the car wash that day. When a detective requested permission to examine Smith's tattoos, Smith inquired as to the purpose of the visit by law enforcement. A detective said that they were investigating an abduction, to which Smith replied that he had no knowledge of an abduction. Joseph, are you telling porcupines? When Smith was confronted with a still photo from the car wash, Smith responded, "That looks like me, but it's not me." That is quite possibly the dumbest response anyone can say. Obviously, we don't want him to get away with it. But if he claims he knows nothing about the abduction, then the police show him a photo and he's like, "Well, it looks like me, but it's not me." It's like, bruv, just tell them to handcuff you right there. You know what I mean? A detective requested permission from Smith to search both the room in his house that Smith rented and his car, which is parked at that location. Smith consented and signed a written consent form. The search of Smith's room did not reveal anything of evidentiary value, but they did see a number of mechanics' uniforms in the closet. However, when Smith's vehicle was searched, a spoon was discovered under the front seat, which appeared to have been used to melt or burn narcotics. A search of the trunk of the car revealed a cardboard box, which contained another spoon similar to the first and a syringe. When the probation officers arrived, the officers advised them of the items found in the car, and Smith was arrested for violation of probation and possession of drug paraphernalia. As the vehicle search was being conducted, an owner of the house where Smith was living arrived in a yellow station wagon. When asked about Smith's whereabouts on February the 1st, she recalled that at around 6:30 p.m., Smith had engaged in a telephone call with his estranged wife from that residence. The detective explained that based on this information, the homeowner had basically established an alibi for Smith. He was temporarily cleared in the investigation, and the detectives left the residence to pursue other leads in the abduction case. However, later that day, at approximately 6:30 p.m., the husband of the woman with whom the detectives had interacted at the residence earlier that day appeared at the station and informed the detective that his wife's recollection of the events from the evening of February the 1st was inaccurate. The husband explained that Smith had borrowed his yellow station wagon around 3 p.m. on February the 1st and did not return until February the 2nd at 7 a.m. The husband also identified Smith as the individual on the car wash video and relinquished the station wagon to the sheriff's office. After receiving Miranda warnings from the detective assigned to the case, Smith invoked his right to counsel. He knew he was in hot shit. During the evening of February the 4th, 2004, John Smith, the brother of Joseph, the suspect, arrived at the sheriff's office and was interviewed by FBI agents. John informed them that although he was not on good terms with his brother, he had received a phone call from Smith at approximately 8 p.m. on Sunday, February the 1st, the night of the abduction. John refused to speak with his brother at that time. On Monday night, John and his girlfriend saw the abduction video on television. John recognized his brother in the video based upon the abductor's face and hair, and the fact that the abductor was wearing a mechanic's uniform. The girlfriend believed that the abductor was Smith because Smith had a distinctive walk due to prior back surgery. That same night, Smith appeared at John's house at approximately 11 p.m. Smith was apparently under the influence of drugs, and John sent his brother away. When asked if he could identify that the abductor captured on the video was his brother, John replied, "I don't have any concrete evidence. It's just, it looks like him. It walks like him. The more I look at that video, the more I look at him, the more I look at the video, it just, well, total resemblance, if it's not him." During the interview, the FBI agent asked, "Have you ever thought about going to see him and asking if he did this?" John replied that if Smith had abducted the child, he would not confess. Instead, he will die with that secret. If it's him, you won't get it out of him. John then suggested that the only way to obtain any information from Smith would be to engage in trickery. John advised that if someone informed Smith that he or she had engaged in improper conduct similar to that for which Smith was being investigated, Smith would most likely open up and provide details about his own actions. Later that evening, after the interview concluded, John informed the FBI agent that he wanted to see his brother. Sheriff's office personnel advised the FBI agent that Smith had retained counsel and any meeting would need to go through Smith's attorney. By the way, the details of what happened to Carly are coming. Keep watching. The next morning, Thursday, February the 5th, 2004, the public defender arranged a meeting between Smith, John, and their mother. The mother exited the interview room after approximately 45 minutes, and John remained with Smith for an additional 30 minutes. When he exited the interview room, John commented that Smith came close, but he didn't say anything. After exiting the room, neither John nor his mother was debriefed by law enforcement, and no surveillance was placed upon them when they left the building. However, on the evening of February the 5th, 2004, John called the FBI agent from his cell phone and he said, "I guess you heard. What do you want to do now?" Although John's cellular phone had never been tapped by law enforcement, John apparently believed that it had, and the FBI agent then realized that Smith must have provided John with information about Carly. Two FBI agents, along with one local officer, traveled to John's residence, and John then directed the law enforcement officials to a local church. When they arrived at the church, John provided the investigators with an area in the field behind the church where they should look for a body. While at the church, John received a call from Smith. John eventually confirmed that Carly's body was located approximately 50 yards from a group of concrete blocks out in the field. After other officers arrived at the church, and based upon the directions provided by John, Carly's body was found in a wooded area of the field. She was lying on her back, naked below the waist except for a sock on her right foot, with her right leg stretched out and her left leg bent back and curled under her left buttock. A deep ligature mark was visible on her neck. The FBI agents returned to the sheriff's office with John to obtain a second statement. John confessed to the agents that he lied to them during the morning meeting when he stated that Smith had not made any statements about Carly. John now related that Smith had initially said, "I'm sorry I did this to you." After Smith's mother left the room, Smith informed John that on the night in question, he ingested what he believed was cocaine, and that everything occurred afterwards was just a blur. According to John, it felt like he was afraid to say, "You know she's dead." So I just said, "Okay, Joe, she's dead. Fine. Where is she? Where is she? We have to find her." Smith then revealed that Carly was in a field near a church on Proctor Road. John advised the agents that he had not provided them with this information after the earlier meeting because he did not believe his brother and because Smith never stated that he had actually murdered Carly. John explained that after he left the jail with his mother, they proceeded to the church on Proctor Road and John looked for the body without success. That night, John spoke with Smith by telephone and advised him that he had been to church but could not find the body. Smith then informed John that he had engaged in a sexual act with a girl in the car and it got carried away. This is why I said he was a dirty bastard, because Carly was only 11. When John inquired if Carly was dead, Smith responded, "I don't know. She could be." John decided to call the FBI agents after Smith admitted the sexual conduct, and because when John asked for specific details with regard to Carly's location, Smith requested his attorney. John also revealed that during the phone call at the church, Smith admitted that he had rough sex with Carly before he strangled her. Subsequent to his arrest, Smith was transferred from the Sarasota County Jail to Manatee County Jail. Sarasota County Medical Examiner, Dr. Vincent Vega, concluded that Carly died as a result of strangulation because there was a ligature mark around her neck and there were no other evident injuries to her head or torso. Dr. Vega testified that a shoelace was consistent with the type of ligature that would make the indentations on her neck. The marks on the neck were deeper in the front than in the back and appeared to crisscross in the back. These findings led Dr. Vega to conclude that during the strangulation, the ligature was not tied, but was held in the perpetrator's hands while he was standing behind the victim. Dr. Vega explained that if sufficient pressure is continuously applied to cut off the blood supply to the brain, unconsciousness will ensue in approximately 8 to 10 seconds. However, application of this pressure must continue for 2 to 4 minutes for death to result. Although Dr. Vega did not locate any defensive injuries on the body, he noted that ligature marks were found on the victim's wrists, indicating that she had been bound. There were also bruises on the inside of her right thigh and in the shin area of her right leg, indicative of blood force trauma. Dr. Vega testified that these bruises could have been caused by a struggle with the perpetrator. He also said that abrasions on the side of the body indicated that the victim had been dragged. Oral, anal, and vaginal swabs obtained from the body tested negative from semen. However, Dr. Vegas said that the presence of insect larvae and decomposition of the body impeded his ability to obtain optimal results from such testing. He said that he observed the damage to the hymen membrane of the child. According to Dr. Vega, this injury was consistent with the pre-mortem loss of tissue due to penetration. He noted that larvae present on the victim could have caused the hymenal defect, and it merely appeared that the victim had suffered a pre-mortem injury. Dr. Vega expressed the opinion that based upon all the available evidence, the victim had been sexually abused. In support of this conclusion, Dr. Vega explained that case reports and studies had demonstrated that ligature strangulations are most common in female victims and are highly associated with sexual batteries. Dr. Vega also reached his conclusion based upon the state of the victim's clothing when she was found. She was naked from the waist down. Finally, Dr. Vega reached his conclusion based upon Smith's statements and DNA testing results, which revealed the presence of semen on the back of Carly's shirt. A FBI team supervisor testified that the semen sample found on Carly's shirt matched Smith's DNA profile at all 13 relevant locations on the DNA strand. Hair and fiber analysis was done, and that 2 head hairs recovered from the yellow station wagon were consistent with the hair of the victim. Furthermore, 7 fibers that were removed from the station wagon were consistent with the fibers contained in the red shirt that Carly was wearing on the day of her abduction and murder. Smith himself chose not to testify on his own behalf and waived his guilt phase closing statement. The jury eventually convicted Smith of first-degree murder, sexual battery upon a child less than 12 years of age, and kidnapping. On December 1st, 2005, the jury recommended a death sentence by a vote of 10-2. Who on earth were these 2 people? During the hearing, defense counsel explained that he would not call any experts to testify with regard to mental health mitigation and would only introduce this mitigation through documentary evidence. The trial court inquired of both defense counsel and Smith with regard to this decision. Smith then offered the testimony of Dr. Vega, who testified that when he viewed the photos of Smith, he identified injection marks that were consistent with intravenous drug use. Smith then offered an allocution statement to the court, and this is where he reveals why he did what he did. He said, "A little time went by. I had called my wife and I had asked her to come home. But on February the 1st, I found out that she did not want me. I lost my business, my family, my self-control. I was really coming apart fast. I just wanted to die on that day. So I went out, copped a bunch of heroin, cocaine, and began injecting it, hoping I would overdose. I was so high, I've never experienced a high like that. It was different than any other time. I think it was mixed with something else. I want you to know that I take full responsibility for the crime. I don't know how this all happened. I was very angry at myself and very high. I knew that getting high was wrong, but I could not stop. I'm not trying to make excuses for what happened, but I really don't remember anything on that day after 4 p.m. So eventually, on March the 15th, 2006, the trial judge sentenced Smith to death for the murder. And the question you got to ask is, why did his wife not want him? Well, he was a drug addict for over a decade. Joseph himself was sentenced to 6 months of house arrest back in 2000 for a narcotics violation, including OxyContin. He attended rehab that May as part of his sentence, but a month later, his wife tipped his probation officer that Smith was again strung out on OxyContin. She had 20 bottles of the pills as proof. And at that time, instead of putting him into jail, they just extended his probation. So this is just an example of why his wife didn't want him. But this entire story is about Joseph being a pussy. I mean, just have a look at the thinking. His life was going shit. Boo fucking who. It's happened to everyone. Doesn't mean we go and kill someone. In fact, when your life is going crap, right, and things aren't going straight, taking some drugs, trying to escape, we've all done it. I get it. But to kill someone? Nah, bruv, you're just a fucking moron. And poor Carly will never be seen again. Thank you for watching.